This is Jack Whitby from JCAD Pictures, and I'm doing research and inspiration for costumes, props and makeup for our thriller film. So for the main protagonist of the film, we needed two different costumes, one for the present day when he's being chased by the biker, and one for the flashback dinner scene when he recalls a flashback of his. So for the present day protagonist, for the chase scene we wanted some costume that connotes to how the character is feeling and what he's thinking. It also needs to suit the situation he is in and what he was doing beforehand. We've discussed that he loses his memory as part of the storyline, but his former work was in an undercover government team, so when he worked, he would have to be dressed in a suit. However, I think that because he used to work in this type of costume, he should have it as for the chasing, but without the tie and blazer, and maybe the sleeves rolled up to make him look a little bit more rough. This portrays that he has been for a tough time and conveys that he has been running for a while, though why he cannot remember why. The white shirt would show that his mind has gone blank and can't remember a thing, and it would also be his work uniform, so it connotes that something has gone wrong with his line of work. Now I kind of like this idea, the fact that we're kind of bringing in both the flashback and the present day scenes together, and how they relate to each other. But however, I thought that if we had the suit on at first, one, it would kind of make it that little bit more harder for the audience to determine whether it's the present day or past. And reason two I didn't want it is because the reason he gets a flashback is because he sees the biker suit, which reminds him of his previous work. So having him in the work clothes would already kind of mess that up, because he could just look down, he'd be near enough his work clothes. So it doesn't really work, and kind of doesn't really work well enough as the storyline. So throughout more research, I planned that a white t-shirt and skinny jeans with a watch. The white t-shirt would show his mind is blank and cannot remember a thing, and his memory is blank. The skinny jeans portray that he is he's styleable and fashionable young man, and gives him the connection to his former life, being stylish. The watch contrasts that he has no idea where or what has happened, and has no recognition of the time. But as a watch, there's a bit of comedy to his character, and also adds to more style. This costume would also be better because it shows a clear difference between the past and the present, so it will not confuse the audience, but also look more casual, and when he would be wearing, if he was off work, he wouldn't be wearing his work suit, so it conveys that he hasn't been on work maybe for a period of time, which more suits him in the storyline. And from this research, I was kind of picking out heroes, just looking at every single main character from films, and each one has a costume that kind of represents their character. This is why I kind of wanted the blank t-shirt to represent his mind and his skinny jeans to represent his former life, because it's kind of the costume needs to represent the character. Therefore, I wanted a simple costume that audiences could relate to, and it wouldn't take any attention away from the action on screen. But I was inspired, as I said, this will be inspiration as well. I was inspired for this costume by Butch Coolidge from Pulp Fiction, played by Bruce Willis. His main costume is slightly skinny jeans, a white t-shirt and a brown coat. When he fights, his coat is off, and I was inspired because he looked cool while he was fighting, and tough because the clothing was fairly banned compared to the fighting. So because it was kind of, he looked cool in it, he looked muscular, he looked kind of, the costume was basic. And because of this, it didn't take anything away from the fight, and the fight was everything people were focused on. They weren't focused on the costume, and I like that. I feel like our target audience is going to be more focused on what's happening on screen rather than the costume. It didn't take any attention away from the, which is what I told you we'll focus on. But I was also inspired because in the film he gets a lot of blood on his t-shirt. Now obviously our film's a 12A, so we won't have blood, but for dirt, we could show up dirt quite easily, which is some of the makeup we're going to do. We're going to smear dirt over the white t-shirt, so it kind of looks like he's been running for a while. And not only that, it makes it clear, whether it's a black t-shirt like this or kind of blue, it may not be able to show up as easy, whereas a white t-shirt, it's clear to the audience that he's dirty and he's in trouble. However, I was also inspired by a non-thriller film, Marty McFly from Back to the Future, played by Michael J. Fox. This inspired me because he's young and stylish, suited to the style of teenagers and young adults of that time. So the film was based in 1985, but the costume that he wore was stylish to what they wore back then for young adults. So this inspired me to have my protagonist wearing skinny jeans, as it's what in fashion for our young people and adults in society today. and is in style, so the skinny jeans show that he's young and fashionable, which the target audience will be able to relate to. And though the Mockingjay J inspired me not directly, but because it inspired me that we need to have costume that people of our day and age wear today, and skinny jeans is very high up on that list. People wear the tight skinny jeans. We didn't want them too tight because it would be very uncomfortable and wouldn't be very easy to run in. We wanted fairly skinny jeans to suit that style, which connected to his former life. Now, obviously for makeup for this costume, we wanted to smear dirt over the t-shirt and maybe a bit on his face, just to show that he's been through a tough time. We don't want any cuts or bruises just yet because he hasn't been damaged as such. That will come in later when he gets into fights. But obviously we don't want to have too much scratches or blood anyway at the moment because it's a 12A, we don't want to have too much gore. And especially in the opening 2 minutes, if people see lots of blood and gore and scratches of this guy's face, they're going to kind of maybe think, oh, maybe we shouldn't have taken our children to see this film and maybe not watch the entire film. So for the start, we're not having any blood, any scratches. He's just going to have a little bit of dirt and very tired, bit of blood smeared over his, dirt smeared over his face, sorry. So we don't rush into the violence, though there probably will be a little bit of blood later on. We don't want to show much violence at all, which is also why in the gunshot you don't actually see the biker getting shot, you just hear the gunshot, you don't even see the flash, so that people know what's happened and it doesn't convey any violence at all. And for props, obviously, for this costume we want a gun, and we preferably have the gun maybe in this part of his trousers. Maybe if he's got a gun slot we could put it in there, or we decided against the coat because it kind of flaps around when someone runs, so we kind of wanted to keep it basic. But the gun will be the only prop used for this protagonist in the present day, because we don't want to throw loads of things on him that he can't run. So we need to keep his costume basic, because costume, makeup and props are very important to a film. However, we don't want to overdo it because most of the attention is going to be from the intensity of the chase and the action going on screen. So we need our outfit that conveys clearly that the hero goes to work and provides a living for his family, but also must be something and someone would wear if they were working for a secret government. From my research, I found that some characters wear ordinary clothing so they blend in but don't lose so they use costume not in their usual style, but enough so they blend into the crowd. Therefore, I thought he could wear jogging bottoms and a colourful t-shirt with Marvel superheroes on it, with a pair of Vans shoes, to blend into the normal young adult style, but also different so that the audience know he's at work. However, I wanted a costume to show that he was important in his line of work, and had money to spend on his wife and the child they're expecting, and to portray how well their life is going, and so that shows how much at stake they have to lose, and make it that much more devastating when everything goes wrong. And a costume which also portrayed a clear difference to the audience, which was his normal clothes and which were his work clothes. The suit would be black because he is involved with the undercover government, so it will blend into a crowd if he needs to, or easier to hide in darkness without being seen. But it'll be a slim suit to still show he has that style, and a navy blue tie, so that this conveyed to the audience that he was on the good side, because good blue kind of presents good, red kind of bad. And he's not all darkness like a biker, because the biker we want to have maybe a black tie to kind of go in that darkness feel, but the blue tie for Jason to give him kind of that more hero type feel and a bit more colourful and bright. I got the inspiration for the suit from Men in Black and the characters K and J. They both work for the secret government and wear black suits. This inspired me because their line of work as a secret government cannot be spoken about much, but also at the same time looks very stylish, and they both look wealthy wearing their nice suits. The black suits make them stand out to the audience and to the people in the film, to make them look important, so that this inspired me to have Jason and his colleague look important, but their line of work is dangerous. But at the same time, this portrays that he has a lot of money and looks after his family and treats them well. So their life is perfect, which is why during the film, seeing their family fall apart is that much more devastating than it first seems. So having him in this black suit kind of contrast to the white dirt t-shirt that he's wearing in the present day. He was very smart, very clean black suit, slim so he still has that style, but when you see someone in a suit you'll think that guy has an important job, rather than wearing overalls or a hard hat with a high-vis jacket. So we wanted him to have that kind of suit. it kind of portrays, if someone's wearing a suit, they make a lot of money, and especially contrasted to the wife's outfit, which she wears, which we'll get into later, it will show that their family is quite well off, and therefore their life is pretty much perfect. However, I was also inspired by the film Liar Liar, and the character's costume flexually played by the marvellous Jim Carrey. Though his line of work is much different to Jason's, it shows that important jobs and jobs that pay the most have to look and wear nice suits. So this again inspired me to have Jason look in his best, showing his work. He cares for his work, cares about appearance, portraying he has a high-end job which pays well, which overall shows that his money to treat his family and shows how perfect their life was before the disaster happened and lost his memory. So having all this this suit makes him look important as a moral of the costume, really, as I said, and he looks, he cares about his appearance, why it's stylish, why it's very neat, which contrasts to when he's trying to run. It shows that he's lost his mind, the fact that he doesn't care what he's wearing, really. That's why he's got the plain t-shirt, and he's got dirt swirled on him, so he's not very neat. So it shows a clear contrast between his past and how his future is going to go. For the props of the flashback, we want to have maybe a briefcase of some kind to add to that kind of important businessman, you know, but inside that briefcase. You won't open it, but there could be guns in that, because he's a secret, which you'll see later. For the secret government, obviously he's going to have an ordinary briefcase, if you think there'll be paper in it. There will be paper, but underneath the paper there'll be a compartment where he's got a pistol, a silencer, the ammo count. So it is, relates to his work, and also again makes him look professional. For me, we're not going to have any for the flashback, because it will be in black and white. So even if we applied to make his face stand out on the HD camera, it wouldn't really matter too much, and we don't want his face to be too bright that it looks odd. So we're keeping the makeup on a minimal, not using any, because we want his suit to be very, very nice, very stylish, and don't want him to stand too much out on the black and white effect of the flashback. So his flashback costume is much more simpler than his present day costume, but by this they really contrast with each other by how he used to look neat, now he looks messy, how he cared about his parents, now he's trying to run. And it shows how his life is changing throughout the film. So the antagonist of the film, from the very start, I have always, right from when we brainstormed the ideas and came up with the final plot, I knew what I kind of wanted the basis of my character to look like. But I researched typical villains anyway. And the antagonist costume needs to strike fear and mystery into the audience and the protagonist, and create confusion to go with his character as he is following the protagonist. I researched possible costumes for villains, and lots of costumes that came up were from superhero films where we did not want to use, so they were wearing very suit-like creations, like Loki from the Avengers, the green suit, and we really didn't want any of that. And when I researched typical villains in thriller films, most of them wore suits much like the protagonist in the films, or wore something very ordinary. But as I said, I've always pictured how I wanted the antagonist to look from the start. However, I noticed that some villains wore suits that made them look more powerful and superior compared to the other people in the film, and makes them look smart as well, as I just said, wearing suits. Therefore, because of the line of work the biker is with, and he used to work in it with Jason, I thought having him in a suit would bring back a flashback to Jason, to his former life in the opening of the film, and show already that these two characters have a connection with each other. However, I felt it wasn't very mysterious, but I liked the idea of the suit. I then thought to add something which would cover up his face, like a balaclava or a helmet, to keep his identity secret and add to the mystery of the character, so no one knows who or what he is. Finally, instead of smart shoes to go with it, I thought it would be best to have him wear boots to add to his heavy-footed, crushing image of the character, because of the type of location he followed Jason to. So adding in, covering up his face to keep his identity, and having muddy boots because he knows where he's going to follow Jason, because he's actually still working with the secret government while he's going over Jason, but it's more of a personal mission. But he's also wearing a suit because he's still in he's doing some work. Therefore, this creates confusion to the audience because he's got horrible mucky boots and a helmet, but a very nice suit. So this kind of contrasts to Jason. He's not wearing a suit, he's rough, and it again creates confusion to the audience and adds to his character as well as his costume of that confusion. However, I kind of felt that having him in a white t-shirt made him seem too bright and conveyed him being good. So instead I decided to have a full black suit, maybe, with a black blazer, black shirt, black tie and black trousers, black boots, black helmet. So it's a very dark character, and he's always watching from a distance, which adds to the creepiness of his character and makes him blend into the background if he needs to. So for the inspiration for this character, I got from a film that I probably shouldn't have got inspiration from, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and the villain in that. And though I don't really know much about the film, I wanted to focus on the costume because we wanted a villain that physically looks scary and big. I thought that this was the film to go to for that kind of image. So obviously we won't be using any of the violence in the film. That's just obvious. But I wanted a big character that looked visually frightening compared to the protagonist, so the audience knew he was dangerous and adds to his character. So by covering up his face, we can have a huge impact on the audience, because obviously the Texas Chainsaw wears a leather mask, which is obviously a bit too violent for us, but it kind of made it more creepy when he reveals the mask. So but that's why I count the idea to have the helmet or a balaclava instead, because it kind of just makes it seem lots more. For one, it's more suited for our target audience, and because we can have the visor down if we use a helmet or the handkerchief, we can have sunglasses. You can't see their eyes, which when you can't make eye contact with someone, it kind of gives you that creepy feel. And the boots that he wears created a loud stomp when in view in a close-up shot. Looks visually scary to build the intensity when he is coming. So I like the idea of the boot to make him look more intense. So there was a lot of close-up shots of boots when he stomped past. So this kind of made me think we need a close-up shot of the boot in the film, and not only that, the boots need to be loud, clunky, so that it really builds to the intensity in the chase. And I also got inspiration from the Stig from Top Gear, the BBC show Top Gear, as he wears a helmet simply to keep his identity secret. And that's what we want from the villain. So by having a helmet, it keeps his identity secret, and therefore his character more mysterious, which overall makes it more frightening towards our target audience. So this is why I decided instead of the balaclava to go to the helmet, because the Stig in Top Gear wears the helmet because he wants to keep his identity secret. That is basically our character. He wears the helmet to keep his identity secret when he's on work. It merges perfectly together. So I've decided finally to have a helmet for the character, which I pictured in the first place, because it makes it seem much more, his identity is kept secret, and also adds to the fear of the character. So for props of the character, he's not going to have any, unless you kill the helmet as a prop, because he wears it, but he doesn't take it off. He won't have any props in the flashback, because he only makes a brief appearance. However, you could count his moped as a prop. Well, actually I will count it as a prop. He rides the moped down to where the protagonist runs. We wanted to have a moped because when in chase scenes, when you hear something like brrr, like whether it be the Chainsaw Massacre or a car, it kind of builds to the intensity because you know they're getting closer. So the moped really built to that kind of fierce humming sound of him chasing after him, and also suited why he would wear the biker helmet. He's not just wearing it to keep his identity secret, but also because he rides a moped. So it kind of builds to his character. And for makeup, we're not using any on the antagonist because his face will always be covered up in the opening 2 minutes of the film, so you won't even see any makeup, even if we applied any. The final character and the costume I had to look at in the film was the wife of Jason. Her name is Katie. So when I researched wives from films, they varied, as it seemed to be what they wear connotes their former life and what they're like as a person. So some women wore very bright, flowery dresses with an apron on which show they were a housewife and cleaning all day, and some were a bit more, I would go for the Chaz side, jogging bottoms, hoodies, which kind of was they didn't really get out much and they didn't really do much when they were indoors because the houses were usually quite messy. However, I didn't want Katie to be lazy or a housewife. I wanted her to be a working woman who is intelligent and dresses to show her wealth, and which relates to the storyline. Because of this, I want her to wear a dress which is dark, so it looks important, and the dress looks similar to what Jason is wearing when he wears his suit, but also conveys danger and how she's in trouble in the future, and foreshadows the future events of her in the film. So by having the black, like a dark red or black dress in the flashback, it kind of connotes to the audience that something bad is going to happen to this woman because she looks vulnerable in the black dress. However, it also looks smart, as I said, and conveys to the audience that they are a wealthy, high-class couple who respect their image and look professional. However, we could have her dress in a very casual and clothes such as hoodies, tracksuit bottoms, and wears white shoes, so that it kind of so the younger target audience could relate to her. However, I didn't think this suited her character, because the kind of costume, because she is a well-respected woman, and her job must be dressed formally, much like Jason's, and the image needs to be respected, that I thought that this kind of took out, that didn't, wearing tracksuit bottoms and a hoodie doesn't really look very formal, it kind of looks very chavvy as such, so he wanted her to be a respected woman who cared about her image, and wanted to make a good meeting or greeting to anyone that she first met, and make sure she looked professional for her job. I got inspiration from the dress from the Wizard of Oz character Dorothy. Now she wears a very bright dress, but it does puff out a little bit, and it looks very cute to the viewer's eyes. So the cute dress kind of inspired me for Katie, because if the girls see her like a cute dress, they might possibly relate to that costume, because they might, oh, I like that dress, I want to go out and get it, or I have a dress like that, it looks really cute like hers, which means they will relate to the film, which in the long term means they will they found an interest in the film, which means they will keep watching and maybe come back to watch it more. The costume would also make her character look more innocent, so that it makes it much more devastating when everything goes wrong and they take about the terrorists. So by having a cute costume, it kind of shows that she is very vulnerable, she's very cute, and when she gets taken by the terrorists and Jason, because of everything that goes wrong with his memory, it makes it very more devastating, because she was such a cute, kind woman. It all gets taken away from that in a snap of a finger, which makes the film quite sad at some points to the target audience. So I also got inspiration typically from the Disney Princess Cinderella, or Disney princesses in general. This inspired me as the dress is a big part of the character for Disney princesses, and in Cinderella's case she wears a blue dress, and they are beautiful. And the dresses are beautiful and capture the attention of the audience. So by having like a nice dress, it's going to really stand out to the audience, like, oh, that's a nice dress. And it's going to capture the audience's attention to her character and make her pay more attention to her character, as she is a key part in the film. We need to bring as much attention to her in the early opening 2 minutes as possible, because she's not seen that much, and she won't be seen much throughout the film. But she needs to have an impact on the scenes that she is in by her character and costume, so that people remember her throughout the film. This also shows that she is a beautiful woman and wealthy. She needs to be and the actor needs to be attractive to keep the men audience interested, but needs to look wealthy to show the family is in a good place in her life. So by having the nice dress, and then men are going to be attracted to her or find her attractive, which is what we want, because it's going to keep the men interested in the film and in her character in general, and not just ignore her character altogether. For props, she will have a tin of tomato soup or maybe spaghetti, because she'll be making dinner for Jason. We didn't want to go over the top with the dinner, like having a big roast dinner, because one, that'd be very hard to film, and two, because we didn't want it to seem they were having a nice dinner together. However, though they are wealthy, they still eat canned food, and it's kind of like a quick, because Jason's home late, it's kind of a quick dinner before they go up to bed and do their business. So, we don't want to take too much attention away, we want to say that was quick to eat, so it shows that they were in a rush, Jason's home late, which kind of all starts the whole memory loss thing, because he's home late, what's he been doing, she doesn't know. And that's the only prop she will have, other than dishes to wash up and plates to put down on the table. She may have a handbag with her, but most probably not, because she's in her own house, she most probably won't carry a handbag around with her. And finally, the makeup. We don't want to go over the top of makeup, so it will be a typical girl's makeup, maybe a nice red lipstick, nice foundation, mascara, so it makes it look like she cares about her image, wants to make herself look nice for her work and Jason, and it also adds, because she's a pretty attractive woman, for the audience. So by having a simple makeup doesn't make it seem so out of the ordinary, it needs to be very realistic, and at the same time kind of just makes her face stand out more, makes her as a person stand out more, because she's key to the storyline, and overall just makes her look more attractive for the target audience to look at. So that was what I have to say about the costume and the research and inspiration I've got from the costume. Now we'll be going out to film, our thriller film, with the costumes that we have. And I found out by researching costume, because I never usually do stuff on costume really, that costume is a big part of a thriller film and films in general, and the costume needs to relate to the character and needs to have some significance to the plot, which is why I've made all 4 costumes for 3 characters very in-depth and unique, so that they all have a hidden meaning inside them, so it's clear that we're not just throwing them on then just because we can't think about it, but because they relate to the storyline in some way.